Alright, here we go. This is video review number 3. Gonna try to give you an overview of cell respiration, including glycolysis, and then anaerobic respiration following glycolysis if there's no oxygen present, or you're an organism like a bacteria or yeast that can only do fermentation. And then we'll talk about aerobic respiration. If you're an organism that has mitochondria and can continue to break down the products of glycolysis further and make a lot of ATP. So I got to do this quickly. I'm in the middle of the musical. It's the intermission. It's pretty good. I'm enjoying it. So here we go. So this diagram kind of shows the whole thing. I'll go through that quickly. Again, the first step of cell respiration is glycolysis, and that's basically taking a molecule of glucose in the cytoplasm of a cell and breaking that down to produce at the end a couple of pyruvic acid molecules. So basically glucose gets turned into pyruvic acid, and in this process, how many ATP are made? Hopefully you said 2 ATP. That's how many are produced by glycolysis. From there, let's look at the anaerobic fermentation process. So again, if you are a bacteria or yeast that's lacking mitochondria, in order to continue doing glycolysis, the pyruvic acid needs to be broken down in some anaerobic biochemical processes, and that's called fermentation. Fermentation in yeast bacteria generally produces alcohol, ethyl alcohol in most cases, or in some situations you have fermentation, lactic acid fermentation, that can occur in animals with mitochondria, but under conditions where there is a lack of oxygen. Instead of the cell dying, the glucose can be broken down into lactic acid, or the pyruvic acid would be processed and broken down into lactic acid, which, as you know, builds up in your muscles and can create a lot of pain and burning, which you've all experienced in situations where you've exerted your muscles. Hopefully you do that periodically. So again, for that side of things, you start with glucose. It gets broken down to or metabolized to pyruvic acid. That's called glycolysis. 2 ATP are made, and from that point, if there is a lack of oxygen or you're an organism that can only do anaerobic respiration, that would produce alcohol in most cases, or lactic acid in the case of animals that are depriving muscles of oxygen. So there's 0 ATP produced by this anaerobic respiration process, but there is carbon dioxide produced, and by doing this, it allows the organism to continue to do glycolysis and get 2 ATP at least. Alright, so the other side of things, if you are, again, an organism with mitochondria and oxygen is present, can go on to do aerobic respiration, which yields a ton of ATP compared to anaerobic. So there's 2 parts to this. There's the Krebs cycle, which takes the pyruvic acid, combines it with coenzyme A and forms a compound called acetyl coenzyme A, and the Krebs cycle then can turn a few times and produce carbon dioxide molecules during that process, but it also produces a bunch of high energy compounds, NADH and FADH2. Those are basically energy carriers, and some ATP is produced also. So the products of Krebs cycle, again, would be carbon dioxide that's released. Again, you know that from when you breathe out that as a waste product, and ATP, some energy there, but then also a lot of energy in the form of FADH2 and NADH, which are produced by the Krebs cycle. Those go on to what's called the electron transport chain, and in that electron transport chain, the high energy molecules FADH2 and NADH provide hydrogen, which are essentially a form of an excited electron, or high energy electrons. As those go through a process of stepping down their energy, a lot of ATP can be produced, 36 in this case, and at the end of that, the electrons are received by oxygen that we breathe in, and in that process they're combined with some hydrogen to produce water after they receive those electrons. So that's where we need our oxygen at. Extremely important. So on the left side here we have 36 ATP at the end of the electron transport chain, plus the 2 from glycolysis, which is going to produce quite a bit of ATP. So that would be an overall view of cell respiration.